She wants to talk to you.
She wants to talk to you.
To you. To you. To you.
To you.
To you.
She wants to talk to you.
What we can talk about beyond plot is the experience we want people to have while watching it. And we want viewers to, as we'll say, have lift and enjoy talking about it with their friends. We think it's something that, people can come to and will want to, text family members and get on the phone and talk about. We really love the sort of water cooler nature of a mystery show, and one that has as many as Mrs. Davis does. And so, what we want people to know going in, and I certainly think, to the point earlier, once you see the trailer, you'll start understanding the tone and how we want you to feel when you're, enveloped in this world, is just like, have a really good time. It's okay to laugh.
Yeah, I think that, I would echo everything that Tara just said, and also say that I'm always interested in sort of straining the boundaries of what we consider to be science fiction. And by definition, science fiction is anything made up that involves science, but at the core of the genre is a way of dealing with anxieties that we have about the world through, storytelling. And so, in the 1950s, sci-fi might have been Invasion of the Body Snatchers because we're worried about communism, or the fundamental sci-fi story, which is also a horror story, is Frankenstein. It all comes back to the same idea of like, what should we be creating as human beings? And the best science fiction stories are always be careful what you wish for. It's Rod Serling 101, which is like, you thought that you needed this thing, but now that you've made it, you are doomed. And so as we were talking, just getting to know one another before we decided to make a show called Mrs. Davis, which is about an artificial intelligence or an algorithm, we were feeling this real anxiety about technology, this idea of like, we need it, we love it, but we think we're using it too much, and we think maybe we're using it for the wrong stuff. And is there a way to talk about this in a slightly goofier way, and to be ridiculous about it, and to embody it in a story around a nun who's told to go find the Holy Grail, and if she is successful, she gets to defeat this technology that we're all worried about. She could be the avatar that we all need, our own version of a superhero, and everything kind of fell into place, and that's the show.
Yeah, I mean, we're so fortunate that our collaborators at Peacock are very inclusive of us in the creative process. And you're right, this is a very specific show, and it requires a very specific presentation. They've brought us in every step of the way, starting with the sort of the teaser trailer we released, about a week ago now, with the She Wants to Talk to You asset, and we're gonna put out our official trailer tomorrow, which we're incredibly happy with, and we think is an incredible encapsulation of the show. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've had some experience with television shows that require like a Cliff Notes experience as they're going on, and I think that one of the things that's exciting about the climate now versus when I first started doing this is that shows really have two lives. There's the life that it has when it initially drops, as the kids say, and then there's a life that it has once all of the episodes exist, and then the audience starts to get to potentially be an evangelist for the show as well. So we're here to answer as many questions as possible and guide people through the journey, but it was also designed to be a bit of a what the hell is happening here show. It teaches you how to watch it as it unfolds, and so it was designed to be slightly unnerving and ungraspable, but like a mechanical bull. Like if you can stay on it long enough,
nice.
It will not throw you off. It does feel a bit non-magical and mundane to break down the fundamental aspects of creativity. That said, there is a structure and a form in broadcast television that that an episode, first off, has to be a very specific length, and it has to be constructed around commercial breaks, and then there's just sort of like guardrails in terms of surviving the paradox of people watch a television show because it is comfortable and familiar, and they begin to grow attached to the characters based on predictable behaviors. But at the same time, if you completely and totally repeat those behaviors, the audience begins to get bored with the show. And so you have to figure out how to incrementally change things without making people uncomfortable. And so those structures are very, very rigid. And what happens over time is that you gain mastery over the storytelling mechanism, but then you also start to really resent it, and or at least you have a desire to break through. It's a little bit like being a teenager, where you're sort of like, I'm really glad that my parents are here and that they are providing me shelter and transporting me places and giving me clothes, but God, I want to strangle them in their sleep. And so I think that I identified a very similar experience that I probably projected onto Tara before I even met her, because her sample was really pushing against the conventions of traditional storytelling, even though I understood that she had basically been in the Big Bang room and the Young Sheldon room for the better part of a decade. And I felt the same thing when I was writing on procedurals like Nash Bridges and Crossing Jordan. Before Lost came along, this sort of, I was so hungry to kind of say, like, why does it have to be this way? But at the same time, it was so warm and comfortable, Freudian slip, inside the blanket of, okay, every episode there's a dead body. At the end of every episode, we know who did it and why.
And I also think that, and I don't even know that I've told you this, like I was also a student of Damon's scripts. I'm such a fan of writing on the page beyond, watching the show and then finding the script online and reading it. And there's such an elegance to his writing that I'm not surprised that you found me in the pack, because I truly just admired his craft on the page and did what I could to sort of emulate that as well.
I'm very touched that you said that, but I guess it's just narcissism now.
Right.
I'm just like, I recognize
Exclusive.
myself. No, you're very much your own writer.
No, it is. I think, that there is sort of this strong connotation in that of sort of the Western spirit. I think any adventurer has that inherent, frontiersman energy, which Simone certainly does. And I think the Looney Tunes references specifically are really prominent in the pilot. So I think that will come through immediately in watching the show and sort of inform people that, it's okay to have touchstone references for this. You are going to see, a giant net that's meant to catch a wabbit in the pilot episode, and it's all very intentional, and it's okay to sort of like, do they know what they're doing? Yes, we absolutely embrace it for sure.
And to that end, I think it's impossible to do the Coen brothers because it always feels like it's a hollow ripoff. That said, a movie like No Country for Old Men has real horrifying violence sort of intermingled with ridiculous comedy, and it's not as absurd as, say, Lebowski is, but the idea that you put those two movies next to one another and say these were made by the same filmmakers. We do want Mrs. Davis to sort of be a little bit fearless in terms of its tonal shifts, and to bring this all back to Betty, you really need an actor at the center of it all who can say and do fairly absurd things and then pivot into, but this really means something to me. This is important, or I feel like my heart just got broken. And so for us, as redundant and obvious as it sounds, if people don't care about the characters in these movies and shows, then you're truly lost. And thank God for Betty Gilpin.